Welcome to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit, a show dedicated to helping you find enrichment for the other 23 hours of your day outside of the gym. Here's your hosts, Jason, Dave, and Corian.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with episode 59 of Anchored at Harbor Park. I'm Coach Jason.
I'm Coach Dave.
Coach Corian.
Today we are going to talk about yo-yo dieting.
Yo-yo.
Yo.
Oh boy.
Yo-yo.
What?
You have the icebreaker.
I know, but sometimes I just wait for you guys to say about it. So this is totally random, and I don't know why I thought about this. Maybe because Odin was annoying me this morning, all sprawled out in my bed. But what is your ideal sleeping position? Like, are you a back sleeper, side sleeper?
So this changed over the past year. I always just slept on my back, but after my back injury, I couldn't. I just couldn't lay in extension, so I always had to lay on my side. And the only pain-free position would be with my knees tucked up, which I don't think is good for the body, but it's the only way I could sleep.
So, like a fetal position?
Yeah. So I kind of got used to that. And I think I can sleep on my back now, but it's just such a habit. I sleep on my left side.
I just like this because it's like, what does your sleep position say about you? And I know that you did this because of pain, obviously, so we could always look at the other one. But this says, like, people who fall asleep in a sideline fetal position, they like it because it offers a sense of safety as they doze off. Those who favor the sideline lying fetal position tend to be sensitive, but may project a tough exterior.
I don't know. I think that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah. Dave?
This has also changed, but as a kid, I liked sleeping on my belly. And then I liked sleeping on my side, but then obviously with my shoulder injury, I couldn't sleep on my side anymore. So kind of same with you, Jason. I switched it up. Now I am a back
Nice. You're a back sleeper now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I gotta find that one.
Strong, handsome.
On the back? People who sleep flat on their back tend to work in transport and logistics, according to some research. And they're always most likely to wake up feeling refreshed because the back sleepers tend to be a young group in general, with most of them being between 25 and 35.
Outside my age group, but
I do wake up, right?
I do wake up feeling refreshed.
Nice. I am definitely, I prefer to sleep on my tummy. I know it's the worst thing ever, but I love sleeping on my stomach. No. There's nothing good about this.
Well, let's hear it.
It's usually, it's for pregnant women and stuff like that. And I'm like, nope, that's not me. But you do wake up with neck pain and experience muscle spasms, chronic pain. Yep, 100%.
So, moral of the story, don't sleep on your belly.
Nope.
All right, let's get into it.
Be forced to go on your side. All right. Dieting, and specifically because what time of the year is it? It is the middle of May, and it's going to be summer very quickly here.
We hope.
So what do we hear all the time when summer is approaching?
I need my summer body, my beach body. I haven't even posted anything about that because I'm like, it's not what I stand for. I'm not here to just get you ready for the beach. So,
and, to those people's, credit, a few years ago, we probably were saying those kinds of things, but we've developed to the point where we understand now. But
we're in the market to have sustainable lifestyles, not up and down.
Yeah, we don't want to do a short-term thing just for the summer, so we can look good for the summer. We want a long-term approach. And we kind of call these yo-yo diets because you see a result very quickly, and then as soon as that passes, you see the opposite rebound very quickly.
I think, too, I say this all the time, I just dislike the word dieting because it tells us that there is an end result, and once I get to that, I don't have to think about it anymore. And I don't think that's anything that we preach anymore. We're all about like healthy lifestyle and longevity and sustainability. So just that we're dieting it's a habit loop, and the diet industry wants you to be in that habit loop. We've said that before.
It's kind of crazy because, like, when you look at the definition of diet, it's like the definition of fat. Like, they're not bad things. It's just they have the stigma where, like, in modern society, you have fat, so that's a bad thing. Like, you need fat in your body. It's a good thing. But we've gotten to this point where if you have it, oh no, I have to get rid of all my body fat.
One of the most interesting things that I read about why our mind, and specifically women's minds, are always like, gotta lose weight, gotta lose weight, gotta lose weight, is because like as you're growing up and you're like reading magazines or, watching, television and all those things, they tell you like that your weight needs to go down, right? That the scale needs to go down. But what happens when you're a juvenile, like you're a teenager? You're growing. Regardless of what I'm doing, I'm going to be heavier on the scale. But during the most sensitive time of me growing and developing, I'm told that I need to lose weight, which is literally like the exact opposite of what your body's doing. So even if I'm putting on muscle, I'm growing bones and all of that stuff, like, you're telling me that I need to lose weight. And then that's why we carry like this stigma into our adult lives. Right.
And then when you actually learn, you realize that having the body that you want to lose weight because you have an ideal body that you want. When you get into it, you realize that it's not the losing weight that gets you the body. It's the working out and eating properly. Your body weight might go up, but your body in the mirror is going to get closer to what you want.
That's why I always ask people, what does healthy look like to you? Because once we really start defining what it is for us personally, it might not have anything to do with the scale. It might have everything to do with stop smoking, homemade dinners, going for walks with family and kids, playing at the park, and when I get in those goal sessions with people, majority of them do not reflect the scale then. It's all activities and that quality of life.
Right. And I think that's because they don't really think about it that way. Right? Until you kind of show them that that's the alternative way to think about it.
Yep.
And I think that is probably the problem with yo-yo dieting or dieting is we're looking for the result, and the result would be that number on the scale. So we're jumping on the scale looking for a certain number, and we fall off within the first 30 to 60 days because, well, that number is not changing, so there's no progress, so I got to try to the next best thing, right? And unfortunately, there's all these different diets out there that promise results or maybe works for somebody, so you say, oh, well, if it works for that person, it must work for me, and then you're not seeing the same results, and everybody's body's differently too. It's going to respond differently to different foods or different dieting, the way that that's just how you're built. Some people like more carbs. Your body just likes more carbs. Some people like more fat. It's just dependent on your body type.
Dave and I had a great conversation just yesterday because I listened to this podcast, and it was about intuitive eating and understanding your body. Two things, again, that happen when we are babies. If you are breastfed versus bottle fed, it is a natural instinct for mothers when you are, or any parent when you are bottle feeding, that you are told that babies should eat between 3 to 4 ounces every time that they feed, but when they're 3 months old. But if your child is like just smaller or different, when you see that bottle and you realize that, oh, I made them 4 ounces, that's how much they're supposed to eat, and they haven't eaten it, parents will tend to force their baby to keep eating. And then, but when they are breastfeeding, you don't know how much breast milk is left. So when they're done, they're done.
Right.
And so we're not force feeding them past full. And then the other thing that we were talking about is like when you set out food for children and have them, learning about foods, they suggested that you should put out things from different categories, such as protein, healthy fat, and carb, because the baby's going to know, like, as it's growing, what is it craving, and it's going to want that more. But if you put out, like, say, veggies, berries, and like children's cereal, even though you're giving them options, they're still all carbs. And what if that child needs fat or protein right in that moment?
Right.
So we're not letting us be intuitive. We're kind of directing these thoughts. Now, again, I am not a parent. I don't know any of this. I just listened to a podcast, and it made a lot of sense.
I can see where it would be difficult to always have those options, but it makes a lot of sense.
And that's something that, remember, so fat is good for the body, and fat and protein create cells.
Yep.
So
hormones.
That's the one thing that kind of drives me crazy right now with what's going on, I guess, in the world is when I was growing up, like, a couple of my friends started developing, you started hearing about, oh, he has ADD or ADHD, but it was very far and few between. But now it's almost every kid has ADHD, and you hear about it all the time now. And it's like, you wonder if it's the dieting or like the way that kids are eating now, because all they're eating is carb sources,
So
processed food,
like sugars all day long.
And there's no healthy fats to develop the brain, and there's no proteins to develop their cells either. So it's all just carb, sugar, and then we wonder why we have ADHD.
Yeah, and not only just that, but I mean, think about all the other diseases that happen when you don't have those healthy fats or those vitamins and minerals that come from those foods.
Mm-hmm. Not to derail this conversation, but we're way off track.
We are.
So, Corian, tell us about some of these kind of yo-yo diets that we'll see.
So what tends to happen is that people will get really strict on whatever it is that they're doing. And then when they get to where they need to be, they kind of let themselves like have a little bit, or they'll just say, okay, I'm at where I need to be and I don't need to do this anymore. But you've now trained your body to do a certain thing and burn calories a certain way. So like regardless if you're low fat or low carb or anything else, when you switch from one thing to another, your body's going to get flooded because now it doesn't know, like if you were low carb and now all of a sudden you had these carbs, like carbs retain water and it's just what it is. So now your cells blowed up and you put all this water weight back on and all these things. So we can't just stop. We have to gradually shift from one way of behaving to another.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I thought was interesting is you said about the strict meal plan, like, and the way I kind of think about it is if you're so laser focused on it, like you're hitting it perfectly, it tells you exactly what to do and when. Yeah, and then you hit that goal, like what happens then?
Yeah.
You're so reliant on this thing that now you don't need, and it's like, well, what do I do?
Yep.
And then that's when you see people that they don't know what to eat. And they go out and all this stuff.
And that's 100%, that's the other issue with like strict meal plans and being told what to eat and when, is like it's great for that 4 or 8 weeks that you're doing it, but what did you learn? What did you understand? How do you know how to feel your body? So say you're like, okay, it's from January to April. There's really no holidays. I can do what I want. I'm going to be on the strict meal plan. And I didn't have any corporate parties, and I didn't have any of this stuff, and we didn't go out to the beach. And now all of a sudden you're faced with these decisions when you're out and you're like, oh, like I don't know what to do, first of all. So then I just go crazy. And then I'm like, well, the only thing that works, quote unquote, is being on that strict meal plan. But that's because, again, you didn't learn anything. Or, you're like, well, I'm just going to start it over again. And then I don't see results. Because what you did when you were 250 pounds and what you do at 200 pounds are going to be very different.
Right.
So it's not that the meal plan didn't work. Your body's in a different position. So when we are super strict and we're not understanding food and we're not understanding what it does for us, it makes it very difficult to keep progressing.
That's interesting too, though. So meal plans aren't the worst thing in the world, but the key is what are you learning and taking away from it? Yep. If you're just blindly doing it, hoping for the end result, then it's not the best thing.
You just kind of mentioned one of my biggest pet peeves. So when people tell me that they're doing something, whether it's fitness, health, nutrition, whatever it is, and they're like, I'm trying X, and I'm like, why? And they're like, I don't know, because I just think I should.
Right.
And I'm like, well, then how do you know if it works? Like, what are you looking for a result? Like, when I did the celery juice cleanse and everything, like, I knew why I was doing it and what I was looking for. And then some other things happened, which was fine. Or I watch people go to make a lift and they do all these wonky setups on their bar. And I'm like, why are you doing it? I don't know. I saw someone do it. And I'm like, no, guys, we have to have a purpose.
Yeah.
One thing that I find kind of interesting too is, and I talk to people quite a bit about it, is they want to lose weight. That's their result. And then maybe their performance declines in the gym, or they're not seeing any decline in their weight loss. And then you say, well, okay, let's talk about what are you doing? And they tell me like, well, you break down their day and you've realized they've only eaten maybe 800 calories, and you're like, geez, and you're doing CrossFit? Like, that's not healthy. You need to be up, probably closer to 1,500, maybe 2,000. If you're a guy, you're probably higher than that. And they're just like, what? They look at you like you're crazy, because it's like, I can't eat all that food. I'm going to gain weight. And I think the misconception that a lot of people think is that they want to lose weight, they eat less. And, well, I can't gain weight if I don't put the food in my mouth, because there's nothing for me, so I'll lose weight that way. So I think that is a very common misconception. And Corey, I like your analogy that you give about the bank account. Maybe you can share with people.
Oh, yeah, my bank account analogy. So most people get paid every 2 weeks, or even if we say twice a month. So you get paid on the 1st and the 15th. You can budget, right? You can pay your mortgage, car payment, insurance, and then you know how much money you have left over to do extra activities, such as, go out to the movies or, buy a new pair of shoes, whatever it is. If for one reason or another you don't get paid on the 15th, you're like, that's okay. It's one time, like, not a big deal. I'll just adjust here, kind of shift this money. I have some money in my savings account. I'll pull from that and I'll cover everything. But what if I told you that you never knew when you were getting paid? What would you do, Jason?
I have no idea.
Like, I just randomly would pay you money.
I'd have to figure out a new system, and I don't know what it would be.
You'd have to have a minimum of something to pay your bills, and then you'd probably hoard the rest of it. You're like, well, I can't go to the movies, and I can't buy this because I don't know when I'm going to get paid again, and I don't know if I'm going to have money for my mortgage or my rent. So that's how your body is. When you are eating very randomly, your body is hoarding things because it has to make you survive. That's its sole purpose, is to keep you alive. So brain has to function, heart has to beat, lungs have to breathe. So if you're feeding it very randomly and all over the place, it's going to hoard this nutrition inside you so that it can constantly be giving to those 3 vital functions. If you eat regularly and put it on a system and it understands, like, okay, whatever that is for you, I'm eating on a consistent basis. I don't have to store food because I know she's going to give me more. I will let her burn more energy in a workout. Let's build some extra muscle because now we have the extra calories for that. And I know she's going to give me more. All of those things. So the more that you can treat your body in like a systematic way and get it to understand a very common intake or regular intake, then the more it's going to do for you. And I don't think that people realize when they're under eating the fact that they're only running at 60, 70, maybe 80% capacity because they just feel like that's the norm.
That's all they hear. That's what you're growing up, I guess, taught. That's unfortunately what media tells us, and you see these models or whatever, and you think that's what the norm is.
And also, I mean, it's like when you think about it, it's easy to eat carbs and processed foods. It's not really easy to get well-rounded meals. It's not easy to make. We think differently here, but for most people, they don't know how to cook a dinner with balanced carbs, proteins, and fats.
The biggest thing that I'm trying to get people to break as a habit is this idea of snacks between meals. So if you're someone who is a quote-unquote snacker, you are filling with just carbohydrates or fat. Those are 2 things. And we generally, as a society, undereat protein.
But they're veggie chips.
Yeah, I know. But what happens is your body is spiking your sugar, especially when it's always carbs, and then it's crashing. And your brain needs more sugar to keep going. So it's going to want you to keep going into that bag of pretzels. And then the next thing you know is like, oh, hear it all the time. Oh, I'm just not hungry for dinner now. I've been snacking all day. We have to understand that snacks are an important part of life. If you're someone who likes to eat very often, like me, I eat 5 or 6 times a day, smaller meals, but make them more well-balanced and more complete. And you won't feel like this foggy brain or, out of it, or all of a sudden you're super hungry, and if you only like to eat 2 or 3 meals a day and they're bigger, then that's fine too if you're not a snacker. But if we're snacking, it can't please people. Put some freaking protein in there, like something. But I think society, what are all the things at the grocery store when it comes to snacks? They're chips and pretzels and nuts and seeds. All carbs, all fats, no protein.
Salty, sweet.
I know one of those companies does like the protein pack now, which is better, but still. That's
that's funny you say that. That is a marketing ploy. Their protein pack is cheese, which is fat, which has protein. Okay, so we have to understand that there is things that have protein, like steak and beef and chicken, that have fat in it.
Well, there's meat in it too.
Sausage,
I've never bought
processed sausage.
Right.
I was going to say it's probably salami, the ones that I've seen, which again is not actually protein with some fat. It is fat with some protein.
Just playing devil's advocate as well.
Yeah.
Highly processed.
So like avocados, they have protein, but they are a fat source.
Well, nuts have protein too.
So that's my...
Yeah, I mean, they're a better option than if someone's just buying chips all the time. Still not a great option.
And Dave and I talk about all the time when it comes to that. We started with quote-unquote better options. We did bagel thins, and we did veggie chips, and we did, veggie pasta or whatever, and it wasn't perfect. And then we kept learning and kept growing, and it took years for us to understand this stuff.
Yeah, so the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, that regulates and helps food and the food companies. It's funny when you go to their actual website, their mission statement is to make sure that the sustainability of the farming system and the what am I trying to say? Agriculture basically is sustainable. That's their goal. Their goal isn't to make us healthy and nutritious. Their goal is to make sure that farmers are making money. So what do? They find cheap options, wheat and corn, super cheap, and you can make it a million different things with it. And I mean, wheat and corn is in everything, almost everything. It's in makeup.
If your vision statement drives your business, which ours does, that is a big thing to take into account. Like you said, their vision statement is long-term sustainability for that system. Has nothing to do with health and wellness. So then when they're making decisions and someone's like, well, this is the healthier option, and they are like, well, it's going to cost a lot of money.
Well, they're very smart. So they, all these cards that you go to stores, they're tracking what you buy. They see trends in the marketplace. They know exactly how to set up their displays. They're going to gear those sales, and the way they package items, the way they say things like, it used to be 100 calories. That was a big thing now, or a while ago, and then it became gluten free. So they put gluten free on everything. And then,
now it's organic. Everything.
Now it's organic or natural. Natural's a big because you see that and you're like, oh, it's natural, but or organic. It's okay. They're still the same thing. Like, you have to understand that you could have organic oatmeal or organic made cereal. Like, okay, it was made from corns and wheats, but it doesn't mean it's any better for you.
We could get on so many tangents with this right now. So I want to talk about low carb versus low fat diets. I think that people have a very strong opinion on one versus the other because of either what's worked for them or what hasn't worked or worked for someone close to them. Listen to any numerous podcasts and read books and actually lay out like these diet plans, like write down what their bullet points are when it comes to, say, keto or, like I said, the low fat options and none of that. Their number one thing is that you are supposed to be getting food sources from whole, real foods. Meats, vegetables, some fruit, nuts and seeds, things like that. Plant-based sources. If you look at any diets, no matter what they are, Atkins, keto, or I don't even know what anybody else has right now, Zone, anything like that, 80% of what they talk about is all the same. 80%, guys. There's only just 20% difference in some things, whether, like I said, it should be high fat, low fat. I listened to a podcast from Dr. Ruscio, and it was about that. And they had a study where it was all these doctors, and it was over 20 years of people who were doing these diets. All of them had the same results. Like when they took these years of results on the low carb, some people lost weight, some people didn't. On the low fat, some people lost weight, some people didn't. The people who lost the weight, though, was all about the people who used real food. And then what did it match with, like we've talked about, their body type before. So some bodies like low fat, some bodies like low carb. But they didn't give them any restrictions when they were asking them to do one or the other. They didn't tell them, quote unquote, you're having less than 40 grams of carbs or you're having less than 40 grams of fat. They just said, lower your fat and carb intake. People switched to real food, which naturally is less caloric dense, and they lost weight. The people who tried to do things like keto fat bombs and tried to do things like veggie chips or things that were still processed but fit, quote unquote, inside their plan, didn't tend to lose the weight or keep it off.
And I think the key thing we're talking about here is that keeping it off.
Yes.
Because if you're trying to do some gimmicks to lose weight, so if you're doing these fat bomb type deals, they're not really sustainable. Like, you might see that short-term result, but is that something you're going to do for the rest of your life? Yeah. No.
I also tell people that, the analogy that we're a race car. If you're a race car on the NASCAR track, what kind of gas would you use? You would use premium fuel because you're trying to race. You're not going to put garbage fuel in your race car and go try to race up against everybody. Mm-hmm. You want premium fuel. So the fuel that we're putting in our body is our food. So if you're putting premium real food into your body, you're going to perform a lot better. If you're putting a bunch of processed food in your body, it's like that 87 grade fuel, your race car is not going to perform as well as everybody else. So that's another analogy I like to use.
And I also want to add a caveat to this. This does not mean that I don't eat shitty food from time to time. I've 100%
it's a balance.
Jumped in on that monkey bread that Julie Halberstadt had on Saturday. So, Julie, thank you very much for that.
It was very good.
Yeah, it was. But the thing is that when you have an 80-20, 90-10 rule, your body can build up these defenses so that when you have those things, it's not going to affect it as much as if you had it every single day. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I had, quote, monkey bread or anything like that. So, that's a big thing, too. I'm not saying that things aren't about, like we say all the time, balance. And that's what sustainable nutrition is. It's a slower progression, but it's something that's more sustainable. You can enjoy life. You can enjoy all these things. I still have wine.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's summertime. I'm going to be outside. I'm going to have a couple beers. Mm-hmm. If I was on a no-carb diet, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't even enjoy it.
Yeah. And then what happens? Or if
you did, you'd balloon up.
Yeah. We all get in this, scarcity mindset when you tell us that there's certain things that we just absolutely can't have. And so if you're on a strict meal plan for, say, 8 weeks, and then something happens. I did this last year for my birthday. I was told that I could have whatever I wanted for my birthday dinner. And I guarantee you, I probably had 4,000 or 5,000 calories just in dinner. I went ham. I had tacos, and I had a big bowl. I had ceviche. It was all good food, but I went crazy because I've been depriving myself for 4 months. I was like, this is not healthy. And then that's what happens when people do this yo-yo diet. Again, they get so strict for so long, and they haven't built in these daily routines and habits, that when they tell themselves, I'm just going to have one, or just it's one day, it's a floodgate that gets opened. Versus I had that monkey bed and then I was done.
Awesome. This was fun.
It was very good.
We got off on a couple tangents.
When it
A lot to talk about.
Nutrition, I can tangent all day.
All right, you guys got anything else to add?
I don't think so. I think so. I mean, I have a little bit of experience with like the Atkins diet. Mm-hmm. The South Beach is when I was in high school, I was like 300 pounds, and that was like what I used to start learning about food. And it started off low fat or low carb, but then it introduced them slowly over time for that balance.
Yes, that's good.
So it was like, we're gonna just completely deprive you because you've been eating 5 times the amount of sugar you should have been having.
Kind of got to clean your body out.
Yeah, so we're gonna get rid of all your excess and then introduce better stuff. Mm-hmm. So there's ways to do like sustainable ways, like it's not this all or nothing. You can't have carbs.
And that's a great idea. Like someone asked me like my point on keto. First of all, when keto is done properly, it does work. Obviously, that's why it's so popular, and it has a ton of health benefits. Like it's unbelievable like how many things it can help cure or reverse or anything like that. I am not against keto. The reason that keto is rough though is because it's not sustainable and people aren't doing it properly. Again, they're just filling their fat with just unhealthy processed stuff. And if you read Real Keto is about real food.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're doing it for real, you're supposed to take like acidity tests of your blood, right? And there's details that I think a lot of people ignore.
It's about getting into ketones, and do you need to get ketones in your urine in order for it to work? No. The biggest thing that people don't realize when you're supposed to be keto is not only is your carb intake super low, so is your protein. That is the trick to why most people's keto doesn't work, is because it's not just about low carb. It's actually like your diet is supposed to be 80% fat and like 10% protein, 10% carb. And that's how it works. But what happens is people just cut carbs, and then they wonder why they're not getting into ketosis and why it's not working. Then the second thing, like we've talked about, is once you come off of it, people are like, I can have all the bread. Well, now you just fucked up your body.
And let's talk about this. We are a CrossFit podcast. Like, if you're doing a CrossFit workout, you certainly don't want to be eliminating carbs. You certainly don't want to be eliminating protein. Like, your body needs those to recover.
I was going to say,
if you cut those out, you're not going to recover.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what carbs do in your body. I mean, your carb is your fuel. It's energy.
It is your short-term energy. Yes. And what do we do in CrossFit? Short-term workouts 90% of the time. Your fat is your long-term energy. So when you have like runners and like endurance athletes, that's why they do so.
Them,
yeah, that's why they do so well off of high fat. That works really well.
But they're also twigs and they have no muscle.
Exactly.
Because they burn it off.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess my challenge to you listeners is, when you are doing something, understand what your purpose is. Right now, I'm on a cut. I absolutely understand that my time for my workouts is going to be slower because I don't have the energy because my carbs are lower. I absolutely understand that I'm not putting on muscle right now. I have to work really hard on my recovery. Dave makes sure that my programming is not too much for me so that I can recover. Because what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to get my body fat down. And then next I will try to build muscle. And that's going to be a totally different realm, and other things are going to change. So whenever you're doing something, we have to understand what it is that we are trying to do, and then understand that other things will suffer. If you're trying to get stronger in CrossFit, your cardio is going to go down. If you're trying to get better cardio, your strength or your gymnastics might go down. That's why this is a constant evolution. And it's not that anything that you do is wrong. You just have to understand why you're doing it and what the point is and whether or not it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. And the cost.
Yeah. There's always a cost. I think we were going to end it, and then we got on a tangent.
We were.
But
it's all good.
And bonus minutes for you guys.
All right.
Come talk to us
Real
about health and
food.
nutrition.
real food. Don't eat the processed stuff.
That's all you gotta do.
All the good stuff. The real food's the good stuff.
All right, friends, stay classy. We'll see you guys next episode.
Adios.
Thanks for listening to Anchored at Harbor Park CrossFit. If you would like further information about our programs, visit www.harborparkcrossfit.com. We hope you'll tune in next time.